Bill Brady, Ecclesia Framework today, speaking on the topic of what happens after kingship, from king to sonship and beyond. So you've matured in kingship. What can you expect next? Sonship comes after kingship. But not only sonship, chancellorship can come after kingship. I had been a king for a while, and one day the Father invited me to sit down upon the throne on top of Mount Zion being the mountain of the kingdom. In Daniel chapter 2, it speaks of a stone that was cut out, rather a rock that was cut out of stone without hands, and the rock became a mountain that filled the entire earth. That mountain is Mount Zion, and there is a throne on top of Mount Zion. This is in addition to the kingly thrones that we have on top of our king mountains as kings, and the Lord mountains that we have on top of our Lord mountains as lords that have to do with family and personal life. So every king has their king mountains. They also still have their Lord mountains. But there's also a throne on top of Mount Zion. One day out of nowhere, Father invited me to sit down upon that throne. I remember, and I've told this story elsewhere, that I saw myself from a distance sitting on top of the mountain there on the throne, thinking, what's next? What's just happened? What's this all about? A little while later, I found myself being moved into one of the chancellor's houses. Now, there are several chancellor's houses, 12 if I remember correctly. And the one that I was invited into was the scroll house, where I was involved with distributing scrolls. People find themselves being invited into various chancellor houses. Frequently, it happens around the time that they get invited to sit down upon the throne on top of Mount Zion. And there's an apprenticeship kind of experience that goes on in the chancellor's houses, and then can be a crowning ceremony like a king has. There's various functions in chancellor's houses. There's mantles, there's scrolls, there's the affairs of nations. There's several other chancellor's houses that one can get invited with. One of the things that people frequently do at this point is to take a tour of chancellor's houses and sit in and learn. And for example, in the mantle house, you would have access to being given some mantles. The scroll house, you could be given some scrolls. This is one of the things that people do at about this stage in their growth. But there also can be an actual inviting to sit down and to be trained in that particular chancellor's house, and then have a function that you would perform in that chancellor's house once you're trained. So one of the things that people move on to from kingship is to sonship, but also to chancellorship. And if you look at the laws of Zion, you will see that lordship, kingship, sonship, and chancellorship are 4 of the laws of Zion. In addition to this kind of chancellorship, there also is people get invited to be involved with a chancellor in the sense of doing judging and learn to do that process. So that's another possibility. You could almost call these career paths, like you're working for the big company, what happens next? And sometimes you can be sitting there as a new employee and take a look at the possible career path. Oh, I could go from this position to this position to this position. Well, in the kingdom, it's Lord to king to son, but at the time of moving into the beginnings of sonship, there's can be the beginning of moving into chancellorship, in the sense of being in a chancellor's house, or chancellorship in the sense of learning to do judging. What else is there besides this? Well, some kings move on to become King of Kings. Jesus was Lord of Lords, and he is, pardon me, Lord of Lords and King of Kings, Messiah of Messiahs, King of Kings. And some people move on to be a King of Kings, which would be a trainer of kings. Now, the beginning of the process of sonship is sitting down upon the throne on top of Mount Zion. And then there's a whole training process involved with that. Several steps involved in crowning ceremonies and things that the Lord will bring you through. And it's quite an extensive process that the Lord brings you through before you are finally in a place of becoming a fully mature son. Now, of course, all of us are sons the moment we're born again, but we're not fully a mature son until we've gone through the Lord, King, Son progression and gone through the progression of the son growth to become a fully mature and functioning son. And this has to do with ruling. What is there beyond sonship? Well, I believe that fathering is beyond sonship. The son will move on from being a son to being a father. Now, there are fathers in the sense of someone that helps you along the way, but there are also fathers in the sense of a position after sonship. And it's a very thorough kind of fathering. And I think it's something that the Lord is going to be moving some of the current group that are moving into sonship. He will move them on to fathering. And then there are things that God has us do in creation beyond the earth that we can move into as well. So what comes after kingship? Sonship, but also various kinds of chancellorship or King of Kings. And after mature sonship comes